The blood wouldn't stop. Yuna pressed the towel harder against her forehead, watching the white fabric turn red. Her hands were shaking so badly she could barely keep pressure on the wound. Outside the bathroom door, Daniel was still screaming. "You made me do this, Yuna. You know what happens when you talk back to me." She bit down on her lip to keep from sobbing out loud. The metallic taste of blood mixed with salt from her tears. Her left eye was already swelling shut. She'd seen the gash in the mirror before she'd turned away, deep enough to scar, right above her eyebrow. He'd used his ring hand this time. The door shook as he slammed his fist against it. "Open this door right now." Yuna fumbled for her phone on the bathroom floor. The screen was cracked from when she'd fallen, spiderwebs of broken glass cutting across the display. But it still worked. It had to still work. Her vision blurred as she pulled up her contacts. Maria. Her coworker at the hospital. The closest thing she had to a friend in the city. Maria had given her that look last week when Yuna had worn long sleeves in the middle of summer. Maria knew something was wrong. Maria would help. Yuna's fingers trembled as she typed, squinting through the blood dripping into her eye. "Help. He hurt me. I don't know what to do. Please." She hit send. The message showed delivered. She clutched the phone to her chest and waited, trying to muffle her crying with the bloody towel. "Please," she thought. "Please answer. Please." 30 miles away, in a penthouse that overlooked Lake Michigan like a throne overlooking a kingdom, Kang Seo-jin was losing his patience. "Someone is stealing from us," he said, his voice quiet. That was the thing about Seo-jin, he never raised his voice. He never had to. 2 shipments in 3 weeks. Either we have a rat, or the Castellanos are testing us. His lieutenants shifted uncomfortably around the glass table. 6 men who would kill without hesitation, who had built their careers on blood and silence, and all of them avoided Seo-jin's eyes when he was like this. J1, his second in command, cleared his throat. "We're looking into it. The Port Authority." Seo-jin's phone buzzed. He glanced at the screen. Unknown number. Probably spam. He almost ignored it. But something made him look twice. "Help. He hurt me. I don't know what to do. Please." He read the words once. Then again. The room went quiet. His men were watching him, waiting. "Problem, boss?" J1 asked. Seo-jin pocketed the phone. "Continue." J1 hesitated, then kept talking about port schedules and security footage and all the things they needed to track down whoever was brave enough, or stupid enough, to steal from the Jiaminpa. Seo-jin didn't hear a word of it. He was thinking about that text. The desperation bleeding through every word. Someone was hurt. Someone was scared. Someone had reached out into the void hoping for salvation and had landed, by accident, in the palm of a monster. He should delete it. It wasn't his concern. He had a shipment to track, a traitor to find, an empire to run. Some stranger's domestic problems were not his business. He should delete it. He pulled out his phone under the table and typed back. "Who is this?" Yuna's phone buzzed. She nearly dropped it, her heart lurching. "Maria." Thank God. But when she looked at the screen, the response made her stomach plummet. "Who is this?" That wasn't Maria's number. Horror washed over her, cold and suffocating. She'd typed the wrong contact. The crack in her screen, her blurred vision, her shaking hands, she'd sent that message to a complete stranger. Oh God. She started typing an apology. "Sorry, wrong number. Please ignore." The door exploded inward. Yuna screamed, scrambling backward until her spine hit the bathtub. Daniel stood in the doorway, chest heaving, the lock mechanism hanging useless from the splintered frame. "Who are you texting?" His voice was low now. Controlled. That was worse than the screaming. "No one." Daniel, please. He crossed the bathroom in 2 strides and ripped the phone from her hands. She tried to grab it back, but he shoved her down, her head cracking against the tile floor. Stars burst across her vision. Through the ringing in her ears, she heard him reading out loud. Help. He hurt me. I don't know what to do. He laughed, but there was nothing funny in it. You're telling people I hurt you? After everything I do for you? It was an accident, she whispered. Wrong number. I swear, Daniel, I wasn't. Who is this? He read the reply, and his face twisted into something ugly. Something cruel. Who the hell did you text, Yuna? Who is this? I don't know. I don't know who it is. He threw the phone. It hit the wall above her head and shattered into pieces, the screen going black. Yuna couldn't even cry anymore. She was empty. Hollow. Just a body waiting for whatever came next. Daniel grabbed her by the arm and hauled her up. His grip would leave bruises. It always did. You want to tell people I hurt you? He dragged her toward the bathroom door, ignoring her stumbling feet, her weak attempts to pull away. Fine. I'll give you something to tell them about. Her screams echoed off the walls of the apartment. No one came. No one ever came. Seo-jin stared at his phone. 10 minutes. 20. The screen stayed dark. Who is this? No response. The meeting had ended. His lieutenants had filed out one by one, sensing that their boss wanted to be alone. Jae-won lingered by the door. You need anything else tonight? Seo-jin didn't answer immediately. He was still looking at that message. Help. He hurt me. It wasn't his problem. Whoever this woman was, wherever she was nothing to him. A stranger. A wrong number. A ghost in the void. But he couldn't stop reading those words. I don't know what to do. Please. When was the last time someone had asked him for help? Real help. The kind that came from desperation and fear and the bone-deep knowledge that no one else would come. He knew what that felt like. He'd been 9 years old, hiding under a bed, listening to his mother's screams. Waiting for someone to save her. No one had come then, either. Boss? Jae-won was still waiting. Seo-jin looked up. His face was blank, unreadable. The same expression he wore when he ordered a man's death. The same expression he wore when he signed a deal worth millions. But something burned behind his eyes. Something that hadn't been there in a very long time. Trace this number, he said. Now. Jae-won didn't ask why. He never did. Yes, boss. The door closed behind him. Seo-jin turned his chair toward the floor-to-ceiling windows and stared out at the Chicago skyline, the city glittering like scattered diamonds against the black water of the lake. Somewhere out there, a woman was bleeding. And for reasons he didn't understand, reasons that went against every instinct that had kept him alive for 32 years, he was going to find her. If you are enjoying this video, do well to hit the like button and subscribe to this channel. Chapter 2. Yuna woke up on the floor. For a moment, she didn't know where she was. The ceiling looked wrong. The light was coming from the wrong angle. Then the pain hit, everywhere, all at once, and she remembered. She was in the bedroom. She must have crawled here at some point during the night, though she couldn't remember doing it. The last thing she remembered clearly was Daniel's hands around her throat, his voice telling her this was her fault. It was always her fault. Why did she make him do these things? Then nothing. She sat up slowly, every muscle screaming in protest. Her ribs ached when she breathed. Her left wrist throbbed. When she touched her face, she winced. The apartment was quiet. Daniel? Her voice came out hoarse, barely a whisper. No answer. She pulled herself up using the edge of the bed, her legs trembling beneath her. The clock on the nightstand read 9:47 a.m. Tuesday. Daniel would be at work by now, sitting in his cubicle, smiling at his coworkers, being the charming, friendly guy everyone thought he was. No one knew what he was like behind closed doors. No one except her. Yuna limped to the bathroom and made the mistake of looking in the mirror. Her left eye was swollen nearly shut, the skin around it a deep, angry purple. Her lip was split and crusted with dried blood. Fingerprint bruises wrapped around her throat like a necklace. More bruises on her arms. On her ribs, though she couldn't see those, she could feel them. She looked like a corpse. She looked like her mother had looked, all those years ago, before Yuna's father had finally drunk himself to death and freed them both. She'd sworn she would never end up like this. And yet here she was. She called in sick to work using the landline. Her cell phone was destroyed, she'd found the pieces scattered across the bathroom floor, the screen shattered beyond repair. Maria answered at the nurse's station. Yuna? You okay? You sound terrible. Just a cold, Yuna lied. I'll be back in a couple days. You sure? I can bring you some soup after my shift. You live in Lincoln Park, right? That's not far from. No. The word came out too fast, too sharp. Yuna softened her voice. I mean, thank you, but I'm fine. Really. I just need rest. A pause. Maria wasn't stupid. Maria had seen the bruises Yuna tried to hide, the way she flinched when people moved too quickly, the long sleeves in summer. But Maria didn't push. People never did. Okay, Maria said quietly. Call me if you need anything. I will. She hung up and stood in the silent apartment, surrounded by the remnants of her shattered life. She had no one to call. No family. Her parents were dead. Her aunt in Seoul had passed 2 years ago. No close friends, Daniel had made sure of that, isolating her slowly, convincingly, until she had no one left but him. No money. Daniel controlled their finances. She had maybe $40 in cash hidden in her sock drawer, money she'd been slowly squirreling away for months. $40. That wouldn't even get her a bus ticket out of the city. She was trapped. Miles away, Seo Jean was looking at her face. Not the real thing. A photograph. Her employee ID from Chicago General Hospital, pulled from their system by his tech specialist in under 3 hours. Yuna Park. 24 years old. Registered nurse. Address, 4521 North Ashland Avenue, apartment 3B. She looked different in the photo. Softer. Her hair was neat, her smile practiced, her eyes clear. But even then, even in this sterile, professional headshot, there was something fragile about her. Something wounded. She lives with this guy. His tech specialist, a young man named Hoon, pulled up another screen. Daniel Moore. 29. Accountant at a mid-size firm downtown. Seo Jean studied the photo. Daniel Moore was handsome in a generic way. The kind of man who blended into crowds, who no one would suspect of anything. What else? Gambling debts. About 30 grand spread across 3 different bookies. Complaints from neighbors about noise, shouting, things breaking. One neighbor called the cops twice, but nothing came of it. Hoon scrolled through the data. And this is interesting. An ex-girlfriend filed a restraining order against him 3 years ago. Claimed he broke her arm. She dropped it 2 weeks later. Why? Doesn't say. But if I had to guess. Hoon shrugged. He got to her. Threatened her. Paid her off. Something. Seo Jean stared at Daniel Moore's face. A predator hiding behind an ordinary mask. He'd seen 100 men like this. Men who broke women in private and smiled in public. Men who never faced consequences because they were careful, because they were charming, because the system protected them. Why do you care about this woman? Jae-won asked from the doorway. He'd been watching silently, his arms crossed. She's nobody. A wrong number. I don't care, Seo-jin said. But that night, he drove to Lincoln Park alone. He parked across the street from her building. A modest 3-story walk-up, the kind of place young professionals lived when they couldn't afford anything better. Lights glowed in a third-floor window. Apartment 3B. He should leave. This was ridiculous. He had a stolen shipment to track, enemies circling, a business to run. He didn't have time to sit in a car watching some stranger's window like a stalker. But he didn't leave. An hour passed. Then 2. Around 10 o'clock, he saw shadows moving behind the curtains. 2 figures. Then shouting, muffled through the glass, but unmistakable. A man's voice, loud and angry. A woman's voice, pleading. A crash. Seo-jin's hands tightened on the steering wheel. This isn't your world, he told himself. You deal in drugs. Weapons. Territory. Not this. Not domestic disputes. Not broken women with nowhere to run. The balcony door flew open. A woman stumbled out, small, dark-haired, her face a mess of bruises. She gripped the railing like it was the only thing keeping her upright and gasped for air, her whole body shaking. The streetlight caught her face. And Seo-jin saw her clearly for the first time. Not a photograph. Not data on a screen. A real woman, flesh and blood and fear, standing on a balcony in the cold because the apartment behind her was more dangerous than the night air. She looked like his mother. Not physically. But that expression, that look of utter hopelessness, of resignation, of someone who had stopped believing anyone would save her, he knew that look. He'd seen it every day of his childhood. Something cracked inside him. Something he'd thought was long dead. The balcony door opened again. A man's hand grabbed her arm and yanked her back inside. The curtains closed. Seo-jin sat in the dark for a long time. The next afternoon, Yuna walked to the pharmacy. She needed bandages. Antiseptic. Something for the pain, though nothing over the counter would be strong enough. She moved slowly, her hood pulled up to hide her face, her sunglasses covering her black eye. She didn't notice the black car until it was beside her. Her heart stopped. Daniel. Or one of his friends. He'd found out she'd left the apartment, and now. The window rolled down. A man looked at her. Not Daniel. A stranger. Sharp features, like they'd been carved from stone. Dark eyes that held no warmth at all. He was wearing a suit that probably cost more than her monthly salary. Yuna Park? She stepped back, her pulse racing. Who are you? You texted me 2 nights ago. The blood drained from her face. The wrong number. The stranger she'd accidentally reached out to in her darkest moment. She'd thought that was over. She'd thought it meant nothing. That was a mistake, she said, her voice shaking. I'm sorry. Please, just leave me alone. She turned to walk away. His voice stopped her cold. He's going to kill you. She froze. Maybe not today, the man continued, his tone flat, matter-of-fact. Maybe not next month. But eventually. Men like him always do. Slowly, she turned back. Tears burned in her eyes. You don't know anything about my life. I know you have no family. No close friends. No money to run. He paused. And I know the man you live with has put 2 other women in the hospital. She stared at him. How did he know that? Who was this man? What do you want from me? She whispered. He reached out the window, holding a small white card. I can make him disappear, he said. But you need to decide if you want to keep living like this. Yuna didn't move. Didn't breathe. Call me when you're ready. She took the card. Just a phone number. No name. No explanation. The window rolled up. The black car pulled away, disappearing into traffic. Yuna stood frozen on the sidewalk, the card trembling in her hand, her heart pounding with something she barely recognized. Hope. Or maybe fear. She couldn't tell the difference anymore. If you are enjoying this video, do well to hit the like button and subscribe to this channel. Chapter 3. 3 days passed. Yuna told herself the man in the black car wasn't real. A hallucination, maybe. A stress-induced fantasy conjured by her broken mind. She'd been hurt so badly that night, lost so much blood, it made sense that she might have imagined things. But the card was real. She'd hidden it inside her nursing textbook, tucked between the pages on trauma care. Ironic, really. Every night, after Daniel fell asleep, she pulled it out and stared at the phone number. Just 10 digits. No name. No explanation. I can make him disappear. What did that even mean? Who was that man? Why did he care? She didn't let herself think about it too hard. Thinking was dangerous. Hope was dangerous. She'd learned that lesson years ago. Better to survive. Better to endure. Better to be small and quiet and invisible until the storm passed. The storm always passed. Eventually. Daniel was sorry. He was always sorry, after. He came home the day after the balcony incident with flowers. Red roses, her favorite. He cooked dinner, pasta with the expensive sauce she liked, garlic bread, a bottle of wine. He lit candles. He played soft music. I don't know what got into me, he said, his eyes wet with tears. Work has been so stressful, and the gambling. I know I have a problem, Yuna. I know that. But I'm going to change. I swear to God, I'm going to be better. She'd heard this speech before. Dozens of times. Maybe hundreds. She nodded anyway. I know you will. You believe me, right? He reached across the table and took her hand. Gentle now. Tender. The same hands that had wrapped around her throat 3 nights ago. I love you so much. I can't lose you. I love you too, she said. The words tasted like ash. That night, he wanted intimacy. She lay beside him in bed, stiff and silent, her body screaming at her to run. But there was nowhere to run to. When she hesitated, his grip on her wrist tightened. Not hard enough to bruise. Just hard enough to remind her. Don't you love me anymore? She looked into his eyes, those blue eyes that had seemed so warm when they'd first met, so kind, and saw nothing but possession. Yes, she whispered. Of course I do. She survived the night. The following evening, everything shattered. Daniel came home late. She smelled the alcohol before she saw him, whiskey, his drink of choice when things went bad. He slammed the door so hard the walls shook. Danny? She kept her voice soft. Careful. Is everything okay? Does it look like everything's okay? He threw his jacket on the floor and stormed into the kitchen. She heard the refrigerator open, a bottle being grabbed. She should stay in the bedroom. Stay quiet. Stay invisible. But she needed water for her medication, and her bottle was empty. She crept into the kitchen, keeping her head down, her movements small. Just get the water and leave. Don't make eye contact. Don't say anything. Where's the money? She froze. What? Daniel turned to face her. His eyes were bloodshot, his jaw tight. The money, Yuna. I know you've been hiding cash. Where is it? I'm not hiding anything. Don't lie to me. He stepped closer. She stepped back. I lost $3,000 tonight. $3,000. And I know you've been skimming from the grocery budget. Where is it? Danny, please. I don't have any money. I swear. He grabbed her arm and spun her around, shoving her against the counter. The edge dug into her hip, sharp and painful. You think I'm stupid? You think I don't notice? Please. He yanked open the kitchen drawer, the one with the utensils, the heavy wooden handles, and grabbed her right hand. Tell me where it is. I don't have anything. Please, Danny, you're hurting me. He slammed the drawer shut on her fingers. The pain was instant and blinding. She heard herself scream, felt something in her wrist crunch, saw white spots burst across her vision. Daniel let go and she crumpled to the floor, cradling her hand against her chest. Clean yourself up, he said, already walking away. You're pathetic. She heard him drop onto the couch. Heard the TV turn on. Heard him crack open another beer like nothing had happened. Yuna crawled to the bathroom. She locked the door and collapsed against it, her broken wrist throbbing in agony. The pain was so intense she couldn't think, couldn't breathe. She'd seen injuries like this at the hospital. Fracture, at minimum. Maybe worse. She needed a doctor. But she couldn't go to the hospital. Daniel would find out. He'd spin some story about how she'd fallen, how clumsy she was, and the nurses would believe him because he was charming and she was just another woman who walked into doors. She was going to die here. Maybe not tonight. Maybe not next month. But eventually. The stranger's words echoed in her mind. Men like him always do. Yuna reached up and opened the cabinet above the toilet. Her nursing textbooks were stacked on the top shelf. She kept them there because Daniel never touched them, never cared about her career or her studies. She pulled down the trauma care book with her good hand. The card fell out onto her lap. 10 digits. No name. Call me when you're ready. She looked at her wrist. Already swelling. Already turning purple. She thought about the last 2 years. The bruises. The broken bones that healed on their own. The nights she'd spent locked in this bathroom, wondering if this was how her life would end. She thought about her mother. Then she picked up her phone and dialed the number. He answered on the second ring. I'm ready, she whispered, her voice breaking. Please. I can't do this anymore. A pause. Brief. Then, where is he now? Living room. Drinking. Lock the door. Don't come out until I call you. Do you understand? Yes. Good girl. The line went dead. Yuna sat in the dark bathroom, her broken wrist pressed against her chest, and waited. Minutes felt like hours. She heard Daniel laughing at something on TV. She heard him get up to grab another beer. She heard the front door open. Daniel's voice, who the hell are you? How did you get? A thud. Heavy, like a body hitting the floor. Scuffling. Something knocked over. A choked scream that cut off abruptly, like someone had put a hand over his mouth. Then silence. Yuna stopped breathing. She pressed her ear against the bathroom door, straining to hear anything. Footsteps. Voices. Something. Nothing. Her phone rang. She nearly dropped it, her hands shaking so badly she could barely answer. It's done, the stranger said. You can come out. Yuna opened the bathroom door. The apartment was pristine. No blood. No broken furniture. No sign of struggle. The TV was still on, playing some late-night talk show. Daniel's beer sat on the coffee table, half finished. But Daniel was gone. The stranger stood by the front door, adjusting his cufflinks like he'd just come from a business meeting instead of whatever he'd just done. He looked exactly like she remembered. Sharp features. Cold eyes. Perfectly composed. We need to leave, he said. Now. Yuna didn't move. Where is he? What did you do? He met her eyes. No warmth. No reassurance. No comforting lies. You'll never see him again. That's all you need to know. She should be horrified. She should scream. She should call the police and tell them a stranger had just taken her boyfriend and she didn't know where or why or what would happen next. But she thought about Daniel's hands around her throat. The drawer crushing her wrist. 2 years of terror and pain and the slow, grinding death of everything she used to be. She thought about the other women. The ones who'd come before her. The ones who hadn't gotten out. Okay, she whispered. The stranger held the door open. Yuna Park walked out of the apartment where she'd almost died, following a man she didn't know into a night she couldn't predict. She didn't look back. If you are enjoying this video, do well to hit the like button and subscribe to this channel. Chapter 4. The safe house was nicer than anywhere Yuna had ever lived. A townhouse in Lincoln Park's wealthy north side, tucked between old trees and iron fences. 3 bedrooms. Hardwood floors. A kitchen with granite countertops and appliances that still had their instruction manuals. Everything clean and anonymous, like a hotel room no one had ever actually stayed in. You'll be safe here, Seo-jin said, standing in the doorway while she looked around. My men will bring clothes, food, whatever you need. Don't leave unless I tell you it's okay. Yuna turned to face him. Her wrist throbbed. Her whole body ached. She had 1,000 questions and no idea where to start. Why are you doing this? He didn't answer. Just handed her a phone, a new one, still in the box. My number is programmed in. Use it if you need anything. Then he left. A doctor came that night. Private, discreet. An older Korean man who didn't ask questions, just examined her wrist with gentle hands and clucked his tongue at the damage. Hairline fracture, he said, wrapping it in a proper splint. You're lucky. A few millimeters more and you'd need surgery. Lucky. That was one word for it. He left her with painkillers, antibiotics, and instructions to rest. Yuna sat alone in the pristine living room and wondered if she was dreaming. 24 hours ago, she'd been locked in a bathroom with a broken wrist, listening to Daniel drink himself into another rage. Now Daniel was gone, vanished, erased, like he'd never existed, and she was sitting in a stranger's safe house with no idea what came next. She should be terrified. She was terrified. But underneath the fear, buried so deep she almost didn't recognize it, was something else. Relief. Seo-jin kept his distance. He came by once a day, always in the evening, always brief. He'd stand in the doorway and ask if she needed anything. She'd say no. He'd nod and leave. He never touched her. Never crossed the threshold into her space. Never made her feel like she owed him something. But she noticed things. Her favorite tea appeared in the kitchen, barley tea, the kind her aunt used to make. She hadn't told anyone that. A Korean drama was loaded on the TV, one she'd mentioned loving years ago on social media, back when she still had social media. A pharmacy bag showed up on the counter with exactly the painkillers she needed, the dosage already calculated for her weight. He was watching her. Learning her. But not in the way Daniel had watched her, not to control, but to, what? She didn't know. It unsettled her almost as much as it comforted her. By the 5th day, she couldn't take it anymore. Who are you? She asked when he appeared for his evening check-in. He paused in the doorway. You know my name. That's not what I mean. She stood up from the couch, wincing as her wrist shifted in the splint. I mean, who are you? What do you do? Why do you have safe houses and private doctors and men who follow your orders? His expression didn't change. Don't ask questions you don't want answered. I think I deserve to know. You made my boyfriend disappear. You moved me into this house. You, she gestured around helplessly. You know my favorite tea. How do you know my favorite tea? You mentioned it once. An Instagram post, 3 years ago. She stared at him. That's insane. Probably. Why do you care what tea I drink? He was quiet for a long moment. Then, get some rest, Yuna. He left before she could ask anything else. That night, she searched his name. Kang Seo-jin. The results were sparse at first. He was careful, clearly, about his digital footprint. But she dug deeper. News articles from Korea. Court documents. A Wikipedia page for something called the Jeonminpa. Her blood ran cold. The Jeonminpa was one of Korea's oldest criminal organizations. Drug trafficking. Weapons. Money laundering. Bodies found in the Han River, weighted down with chains. Rivals who vanished and were never seen again. And their current leader, the man they called the Ghost of Seoul, was Kang Seo-jin. She found a photo. Grainy, taken from a distance, but unmistakably him. Standing outside a courthouse in Seoul, surrounded by men in dark suits. The caption read, "Suspected crime boss Kang Seo-jin released due to lack of evidence. Third acquittal in 5 years." Yuna closed the laptop and sat in the dark, her heart pounding. She was living in a house owned by a murderer. A real one. Not a man who hit women when he was drunk, but a man who ordered executions, who ran an empire built on blood. She should run. But where would she go? He came by the next evening, same as always. This time, she was waiting for him. "You're a monster." Seo-jin stopped in the doorway. His face betrayed nothing. "I read about you," she continued, her voice shaking. "The Jeonminpa. The bodies. The people who disappeared." She swallowed hard. "You're a monster." He stepped inside. Closed the door behind him. For the first time, he moved into her space, not threatening, not aggressive, just present. "Yes," he said quietly. "I am." She hadn't expected him to admit it. Somehow, that made it worse. "Then why help me?" Her voice cracked. "Why do you care what happens to some random woman who texted the wrong number?" For a long moment, he didn't answer. She watched something shift behind his eyes, something human, something wounded, flickering to life and then disappearing again. "Because I know what it's like," he said finally, "to have no one come when you scream." The words hit her like a physical blow. "What do you mean?" He turned away, looking out the window at the dark street below. "I was 9 years old," he said. "My father drank. My mother absorbed his anger so I wouldn't have to. Every night, I'd hide under my bed and listen to her scream, and every night, I'd pray someone would come. A neighbor. The police. God. Anyone." His voice was flat. Emotionless. Like he was reciting facts from someone else's life. No one ever came. She died on a Tuesday. He beat her so badly her skull cracked. I watched him go to sleep that night like nothing had happened. Yuna couldn't breathe. "I killed him while he slept," Seo-jin continued. "Kitchen knife. I was too small to do it cleanly. It took a long time." He paused. "A man found me the next morning. Covered in blood, sitting next to the body. He took me in. Raised me. Taught me that the world is full of monsters, and the only way to survive is to become one yourself." He turned back to face her. His eyes were empty. "So yes. I'm a monster. But I'm not your monster. And I will never let anyone hurt you again." 3 days later, everything fell apart. Jae-won came to the safe house in person. Yuna had never seen him before, a tall, lean man with a scar across his jaw and worried eyes. "We have a problem," he said to Seo-jin. "Daniel Moore's body was found this morning. Dumped outside Red Serpent territory. The police think it's gang-related." Seo-jin's expression hardened. "That's not how I left him." "I know. Someone moved him. Someone who wanted to send a message." Jae-won hesitated. "There's more. We have a leak. Someone's been feeding information to Miho's people." They know about the safe house. They know about the girl. Yuna felt the blood drain from her face. Seo-jin was already moving. Get her out. Now. Take her to the... The window exploded. Glass showered across the living room. Yuna screamed and dropped to the floor, covering her head. She heard gunshots, loud, deafening, and shouting in Korean. Go. Seo-jin grabbed her arm and shoved her toward the stairs. Bedroom. Lock the door. Don't come out. She ran. Yuna huddled under the bed, her broken wrist screaming in pain, her heart slamming against her ribs. She heard more gunshots downstairs. More shouting. A crash. A scream that cut off abruptly. Then footsteps on the stairs. She pressed her hand over her mouth to keep from crying out. The footsteps stopped outside the bedroom door. A pause. Then the door burst open. A man in a black mask scanned the room, gun raised. His eyes found the bed. There you are. He grabbed her ankle and dragged her out. She screamed and clawed at the carpet, but he was too strong. He flipped her over and crouched above her, grinning beneath the mask. The ghost's little pet, he sneered. Let's see how much you're worth to him. Yuna screamed. If you are enjoying this video, do well to hit the like button and subscribe to this channel. Chapter 5. The warehouse smelled like rust and rotting wood. Yuna sat on a metal chair in the center of a vast, empty space, her hands zip-tied behind her back. Bare bulbs hung from the ceiling, casting harsh pools of light that left the corners in shadow. Men with guns stood along the walls, watching her like she was a caged animal. She was terrified. But she refused to cry. A man emerged from the shadows. Tall, broad-shouldered, with a scar that ran from his temple to his jaw. He moved like someone who had never been afraid of anything in his life. So, he said, circling her slowly. You're the woman the ghost has been hiding. Yuna didn't answer. He's never kept a woman before. Never shown weakness for anyone. He stopped in front of her, tilting his head. You must be special. She thought about Daniel. Every bruise. Every broken bone. Every night she'd swallowed her screams because no one was coming to save her. She was done being a victim. He's going to kill all of you, she said quietly. The man, Miho, she heard someone call him, laughed. A cold, ugly sound. He doesn't even know where you are. Yuna met his eyes. Didn't flinch. He'll find me. Miho leaned close. His breath was hot against her face. I'm counting on it. Across the city, Seo-jin stood in the wreckage of the safe house. 3 of his men were dead. Blood pooled on the hardwood floors. Bullet holes scarred the walls. The window where they'd breached was a gaping wound of shattered glass. Yuna was gone. Jae-won approached carefully. He'd worked for Seo-jin for 12 years. He'd seen him order executions without blinking. He'd watched him negotiate with cartels and politicians with the same cold indifference. He'd never seen him like this. Seo-jin stood perfectly still. His face was blank, his posture relaxed. But his eyes were volcanic. Something churned beneath the surface, something ancient and terrible, straining to break free. Who? The word was quiet. Controlled. We're working on it. The breach came from inside. Someone. Who? Jae-won swallowed. Park Jun-seo. New recruit. 6 months with us. He's been feeding information to the Red Serpents for at least 3 weeks. Seo-jin didn't respond immediately. He walked to the window, glass crunching under his shoes, and looked out at the street below. Bring him to me. Boss. Now. Park Jun-seo was 23 years old. Scared. Crying. Begging for mercy as 2 of Seo-jin's men dragged him into the penthouse and threw him at their boss's feet. Please, he sobbed. They threatened my family. I didn't have a choice. Please, I'll do anything. Seo Jin crouched in front of him. His voice was soft. Almost gentle. You sold a woman to men who will hurt her. You looked at her, at someone innocent, someone I swore to protect, and you traded her life for yours. Jun Seo was shaking so hard he could barely speak. I'm sorry. I'm so sorry. I know. Seo Jin stood. Hold him. What followed was not quick. It was not merciful. Jae-won had seen violence before, had committed violence before, but he had to look away. When it was over, Seo Jin wiped his hands on a towel and dropped it on the floor. Find her, he said. Call everyone. Every contact. Every informant. Every favor anyone has ever owed me. His voice was ice. I want that warehouse location within the hour. It took 2. Seo Jin arrived with 4 men. No army. No backup. This was personal. The warehouse was on the south side, surrounded by empty lots and abandoned buildings. 2 guards at the front entrance. Seo Jin killed them both before they could raise their weapons. 2 shots, silenced, precise. He moved through the building like death itself. Men emerged from doorways, from shadows, from behind crates and pillars. They were armed. Trained. Dangerous. It didn't matter. Seo Jin was faster. Colder. More brutal than any of them had prepared for. He didn't waste bullets. Didn't hesitate. Bodies dropped and he stepped over them without looking down. Behind him, his men followed. But they were almost unnecessary. The ghost was hunting, and nothing could stand in his way. He found the main room. Miho was waiting, his arm wrapped around Yuna's throat, a knife pressed to her jugular. Blood trickled from a small cut, he'd already nicked her. One more step, Miho said, and she dies. Seo Jin stopped. For a long moment, no one moved. No one breathed. Yuna's eyes met his. She was terrified, he could see that. But underneath the fear was something else. Something fierce. She wasn't going to die here. Not like this. Not after everything she'd survived. Something passed between them. An understanding. A trust. Yuna slammed her head backward into Miho's face. The crack of his nose breaking echoed through the warehouse. He staggered, his grip loosening, the knife sliding away from her throat. Seo Jin's bullet found his skull before he hit the ground. Miho crumpled. Yuna stumbled forward, gasping. Seo Jin crossed the distance in 3 strides and caught her before she fell. I've got you, he said. I've got you. She collapsed against his chest, shaking so hard her teeth chattered. Is he dead? Seo Jin looked down at Miho's body. At the blood pooling beneath his shattered skull. Yes. Good. He carried her out of the warehouse. She could walk, her legs worked, nothing was broken, but he carried her anyway. Through the carnage, past the bodies, into the cold night air where a black car waited with the engine running. He set her in the back seat and climbed in beside her. The car pulled away before the door was fully closed. For a long moment, neither of them spoke. Then Yuna broke. The sobs came from somewhere deep, somewhere she'd kept locked away for years. She cried for the terror of the last few hours. For the years with Daniel. For her mother, her aunt, everyone she'd lost. For the girl she used to be, before the world taught her that no one was coming to save her. Seo Jin pulled her into his arms. He was stiff at first. Awkward. Like he'd forgotten how to hold another person, or maybe like he'd never learned in the first place. But then his arms tightened around her. His hand came up to cradle the back of her head. He held her like she was something precious. Something worth protecting. You came, she whispered against his chest. His voice was rough. I will always come. Weeks passed. Yuna stayed under Seojin's protection, but things had changed. She moved into his penthouse, a guest room, her own space, and slowly started to rebuild her life. She went back to work. A private clinic on the north side, run by a doctor who owed Seojin a favor and didn't ask questions. She liked it there. The patients needed her, and she needed to feel useful again. Her wrist healed. The bruises faded. The nightmares came less often. Seojin was learning too. How to be gentle. How to want something beyond power and survival and the cold satisfaction of victory. He brought her tea in the mornings. Sat with her in the evenings while she watched her Korean dramas. Asked about her day like he actually cared about the answer. They weren't lovers. Not yet. But there was something between them, a tension, a gravity, that pulled them closer with every passing day. She'd catch him watching her sometimes. And when their eyes met, something electric passed between them. Something neither of them was ready to name. One night, Yuna found him on the balcony. He stood at the railing, looking out at the Chicago skyline. The city glittered beneath them, millions of lights against the black water of the lake. She came to stand beside him. Close, but not touching. "Do you regret it?" she asked. Answering that text. He was quiet for a long moment. The wind stirred his hair, and she thought he looked almost peaceful. Almost human. "It was the first human thing I've done in 15 years. She turned to look at him. He was already looking at her. "What happens now?" she whispered. For the first time, she saw him without his walls. Without the coldness, the control, the careful distance he kept between himself and the world. Just a man. Scarred and broken and desperately, terrifyingly alive. Now we find out. She didn't touch him. She didn't need to. Her presence was enough. They stood together in the darkness, two broken people who had found each other by accident, and watched the city lights flicker like scattered stars. She came to him as a mistake, a wrong number in the dark. But some mistakes, he was learning, were the only things worth keeping. I know you enjoyed this video. Kindly hit the like button and subscribe to this channel. Drop your thoughts in the comments section below and share this video to family and friends. The end.